So just continuing on, here's another example. Say we got number 32. 10% of 32, this involves decimals, sorry. 10% of 32 is 3.2. So from that we can learn that 20% of 32 is double of 3.2, or 6.4. Here I've done it in repeated addition for those of you who don't like multiplying. And then 30% of 32 is just 3.2 plus 3.2 plus 3.2, and so on, 9.6. So then 5%, if I learned 10% was 3.2, 5% of 32 must be half of 3.2. Or here I've written 3.2 divided by 2. That's 1.6. I can then combine all that stuff together. If I know 30% is 9.6 and 5% is 1.6, then 35% is going to be these two things added together, 11.2. Easy peasy. Now, let's put mental math into action. So for tax and tips, you find the percentage and you add it to the original amount. Okay, tax and tips cost you extra, so it's added on, right? So for example, a 15% tip on a $40 meal. Find 10% of 40, that's 4. 5% of 40, that's half of the 10%, so 2. So 15% is 10% and 5% combined, 4 plus 2, 6. So you add it on to the cost of the meal. You got a $40 meal, you add on the $6 tip, so you're gonna leave 46 bucks on the table. But for discounts, that's like products on sale, you're gonna find the percentage and you're gonna subtract it from the original amount because they're taking that off. You're gonna not pay for that amount. So for example, 25% off on a $75 sweater, 10% of 75 is 7.5. 20% of 75 is gotta be double that, 15. And now we can win 5% of 75 is half of 10%, or 375. Now I can put the 20% and the 5% together to get 25%. It's 15 plus 3.75, or 18.75. So the $75 sweater price minus the $18.75 discount will give you $56.25 as the sale price. Here's for super accuracy. And this is not something I'm quizzing on today, but I'm hoping some of you can pick up on. Like tax is 12%. So you can get close finding 10% and get an estimate, but you can actually also calculate 12%. And here, I'm going to give you an example of 26%. So knowing how to find 10% and 5% gives you good mental math skills, but knowing how to find 1% will give you super awesome mental math skills. For example, find 26% of 80. Yeah, you can use 25 and get pretty close. But what if you knew how to do 1%? Let's look at that. 10% of 80 is 8. Easy. 20% of 80 is double 10%, 16. 5% of 80 is simple half of 10%, or 4. So there I've got 25% is going to be 20, right? Combining the 20 and the 5%. But how do I get that extra 1%? Well, 1% of 80 is 0.8. How do you find 1% of a number? If you're finding 10%, you're moving the decimal place one place. How many places do you think you're going to move it for 1%? 2 places. 1, 2. So 1% of 80 is 0.8. So what's 26% of 80? Well, add 20%, 5%, and 1%. You'll get 26%. So 26% of 80 is 16 plus 4 plus 0.8. Add it all together, 20.8. So you can actually calculate percentage very accurately mentally. Or if finding 26% is tough for you to add those figures in your head, at least you could find 25%. That's pretty easy. Or if that's too difficult for you, at least you could find 30%. That's the closest 10%, to that multiple of 10%. So use these mental math skills when you're in the store, buying something on sale, or just buying something you have to pay tax, or if you're helping your parents leave a tip on the table at the restaurant. Use it. Use your noodle.